All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to this month's Caregiver 411. I'm Doc Hunsley. I'm the Executive Director and Founder with SOAR. Uh, Tonight, we'll be talking on handling behaviors. Want to welcome everyone here. I'll be trying to watch the chat, so if you got some questions, you can put it in there or you can just interrupt me and ask me, but happy to try to answer questions as we go along here with everything too. So, saying that, I'm going to see here if I can get my screen to share and hopefully I get this all right. Okay, so guys, we are going to be talking about handling behaviors in kids with special needs. And again, I'm I'm Doc Hunsley, and I'm the executive director and founder of SOAR Special Needs. We're based in Lenexa, Kansas. I know we got some people joining us from out of state. So again, SOAR, we exist to transform the lives of special families, and we empower them to soar in their local and faith communities. Uh, and we want to help answer the three main questions that every family, every individual with disability has, and that's: will my child ever be able to provide for themselves? Who will take care of my child once I'm gone? And who'll take care of me as a parent or a caregiver? And we do that with a lot of our programming. We're happy to have this Caregiver 411. And for me, this is the reason I do what I do. Um, uh, my nickname's Doc, but the reason I do everything is because of my son. This is Mark, also better known as Bubba, and he's he's my little mini me. They call me Doc because I'm actually a pediatric ER doc, but I got sick taking care of my patients many years ago. And Mark uh, was the blessing in my life, in our life. He's my second son. I've got three kids, and when he was 8 months old, he had his first seizure. Lasted over 4 hours. By the time he was 18 months, got the diagnosis of Dravet syndrome, very rare genetic seizure disorder. And then by the time he was two, we got the diagnosis of profound autism. So my wife's a pediatrician as well. We went from being physicians to take care of a lot of kids with special needs to now all of a sudden being a parent of a child with special needs. And first time in our life, we finally understood just how difficult it was and is to be a parent of a child with special needs, not just at home, but out in public, with schools, with church, everywhere you're talking. And then fast forward 14 years ago, he was cured of everything when he was born into heaven at the age of 5.5. And 10 months after his passing was when we launched SOAR. SOAR stands for Special Opportunities, Abilities, and Relationships. And that's why I do what I do, is because an ornery little redheaded boy completely broke my heart for individuals with disabilities and their families, and passionate now about coming alongside and helping families and doing their best. So let's talk. I learned a lot about behavior with my son, and let's talk through how we can help guide our child to success. So let's start with, I've developed a pyramid type model in a systematic way that we can show our child how to be successful. It starts with the least amount of help, and then we move to the most amount of help. And honestly, everything we're talking about tonight can apply to any age child. It doesn't matter they're 2 years old, 12 years old, or 52 years old. It You can work with all of it. First and most important thing I want to say tonight is all behavior is a form of communication. All behavior is a form of communication. So we got to realize and understand what our child is trying to communicate to us when they're having behavior. And that's going to be a part of it. But first, to help our child be successful, we can simply tell them what you want them to do. Say it. Then if that doesn't work, we can show them how to do it. And finally, we can move on and actually do it with them. But let me break this down for you, and we'll kind of go through how this looks. So our first step is saying it. We'll actually repeat the instruction that we're wanting our child to do. Repeat what you or the teacher said to do. We can repeat the action words. What are some action words that you might want to say to have them be there as a part of that? and working through everything. Tell them this first step that you want them to do as you're going through that. And we need to know that that they're listening. So how do you know if they're listening, if they're hearing it? Well, first you watch them watching you, or you watch them watching the teacher, whoever's in charge and doing things. Second, they're your child. You know what their listening looks like. So you learn that by watching them. And then third, you watch them take action. If they take action, that's listening. Now, if they don't take action, but they're looking at their peers around them and trying to imitate what they're doing, that's still more independent than you actually repeating everything yourself. So think about what they're doing and how they're listening to go through all of this. And then if this isn't working, we'll move to the next step, and that's show. We'll actually model the instruction for them. So model the task that you want your child to do. When should we model it? Well, we model it when they don't follow the instructions after you say how to do it. That when they are not paying attention or understand what you're saying. And then finally, when it involves multiple steps. Our kids with special needs are more successful if they can follow one step at a time instead of multiple. And then finally, the last step is do it. Do it with them. You actually do the task with your child, helping teach them. Um, and when should you do the instruction? Well, when they refuse after you've modeled it for them. You should do it when they're too distracted to do it on their own, and or do it when they need to see it again after a failed attempt. That will help them through all of it. When do you stop? Well, the first thing is you stop when you feel physical resistance. If we're trying to help our child through it and you feel them not wanting to be touched or feel resistance against us, let's stop. If they don't like to be touched, show signs like cringing, moving away, slap at our hand, just simply stop. We also stop when they start doing it on their own. Now, here's the big one. This is the one we miss frequently, especially as parents. We stop when the behavior worsens. So if the behavior starts worsening by us trying to do it with them, just stop. They're trying to tell us, hey, I really don't want to do this. And we need to take that into account and just stop. Many times we can make that behavior worse by pushing forward with it. So now let's talk about problem behavior. Okay. It is completely easy to pretend that problem behavior won't happen. And when it does happen, it won't happen again. But the problem is we cannot be like this ostrich and put our head in the sand and think it's never going to happen. Remember, you're not alone. You're never going to be alone. You can ask for help because all behavior is a form of communication. So we're going to learn a bunch of techniques here in the coming minutes that we'll be discussing about today. You can ask other parents, you can ask other peers, talk to your teachers, talk to the counselors, ask for their help. If you got other therapists that you're working with, ask them for help. But bottom line is all behavior is a form of communication. What are they trying to communicate to you? Now let's take a minute and define what problematic behavior is. Problematic is actually defined by each environment and by the toleration level. So it's dependent on people, on space, on activities, and on expectations. So, what I might view as problematic behavior, my wife may not view as problematic behavior. And yes, that might cause some problems between my wife and I, but that's okay. And we've got to realize that we are all different and we have different levels of comfort. And so be aware of that. But problematic behavior depends on the person, on the space you're in, the activities, and the expectations you have. Problematic behavior actually refers to behaviors that interfere with an individual's ability to function effectively in their environment or to interact appropriately with others. Okay? And so it can be a wide variety and may include physical aggression. It could include self injury. It could be property destruction, noncompliance, social withdrawal, among many other things. Now, these behaviors can be caused by a variety of factors. Can include communication difficulties, sensory processing issues, anxiety, frustration, and we have to be prepared for that. So, when the problematic behavior happens, there's a few things that we need to do. First and most important, remain calm. Believe it or not, your behavior will affect your child's behavior. If they get upset and they're having problematic behavior and we get upset and we start yelling, they're only going to get riled up more. So we need to remain calm. We need to talk calmly. And I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Am I safe? Is my child safe? And can we keep on task, whatever we're doing? Now, if the answer is yes to all 3 of those, you can continue on. But if the answer is no to any of those, we have to take action and do something. Now, the other thing to remember is you can think absolutely anything you want, but you cannot let it show. You have to have the absolute best poker face in the world and letting them know that you're not worked up, that you have everything under control, you know what's going on. Even if you don't have a clue what to do next, remain calm and act like you've got everything in control because that's going to really help them in being able to calm down as you move through. If you are not safe and you can't get back to the task that you're working on because the behavior is so disruptive, we must take action with that. So we have to ensure that you're safe and that we keep your child safe. And we'll go over more of that here in just a minute. So we have to, when that problematic behavior occurs, we have to become a detective. We already said all behaviors are a form of communication. What are they trying to communicate to us? So we have to look, what are they getting out of the behavior? In my experience, there are 3 big things that they try to get out of behavior. First, attention. Second is getting out of work or tasks. And secondly, the way it feels. It feels good or it feels bad to them. So let's break each one of these down. Let's talk about attention. What type of attention do they seek? Is it from you? Is it from friends? Is it from brother or sister? Is it from dad? Is it from mom? Is it from a teacher? Next question, can I withhold that attention during that problematic behavior? Or can I provide attention for some other desired behavior that we would like to have them do? So think through how we can work through that. Second type is escaping work. We need to, see is this especially something they don't like, or is it something they think is just too hard and they don't want to do it? We need to ask, do they need help? Do they need some motivation? We need to help teach our kids to ask for help, provide breaks, provide rewards for getting portions of the work done. The last thing we want them to do is be like the snail here and say, nope, peace out. I'm out of here. I'm not doing any work. So let's be patient as we work through it with them. And then the last big problem behavior cause we see is sensory. And it's the way it feels. It either feels good or it feels bad. And that we can have too much sensory, that's sensory overload, or we can have sensory seeking, not enough sensory. We need more sensory input. And so then we have to ask ourselves the question, is there a way I can get them that sensation another way? Can I do it through free access? Well, what is free access? Well, maybe that problem behavior is occurring due to your child accessing an item or a location to enjoy a sensory sensation, and you just consider giving them free access to it. Maybe they like playing with a toy, and every time you take it away, they're having behavior. Well, ask, is it okay if they have that? Just whenever they want it, have that access. Fine, great. Give them that free access to it. See if that removes it. If not, then we can look at something that I call earned access, where they earn time to have that item or object or location that they're wanting. And so you limit access to the sensory item they want or the location they want by you can use a token system, a reward board system that you give them a positive uh, smile or check mark for things that they do that you're wanting. And once they earn enough of those tokens or smiles or rewards, then you give them that item that they're working for as an earned access. Um, and the system visually displays when they're going to get it, and it works really well with them. So those are two ways that we can work through that. The big thing to remember, problem behavior, you've got to expect behavior and you have to plan for it. And so we have to be alert and prepared to react in the best way possible. It does not mean anyone did anything wrong, and it does not mean that the person showing the behaviors doesn't like you or is even mad. So think about it. It can be difficult to pay attention the whole time and consistently a lot around being around a lot of people. Even for us who are neurotypical, it can be frustrating at times. The difference is most of us know how the appropriate way to show frustration. Our kids with special needs may have more difficulty with that. And that's okay. That's what makes them who they are. And we have to be aware of that. So when there's probably, if you don't get anything else today, I hope this is the most important slide for you for the night. When we have problematic behavior or any behavior that we don't want, what do we normally do? We usually say, stop running, don't run, quit running. Do they ever stop? No, they keep running. They keep doing what we're saying. And we always know, and I'm putting myself in this shoe. I just wish my kid would listen to me because they keep doing what I'm telling them not to. Well, my friends, your kids are listening to you. It took me a while. I wish I knew this and remembered this when my kids were young, especially Mark. But the human brain is wired to hear the last word you say. It doesn't hear everything up to it. It hears that very last word. And so when it's hearing run, 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 all it's hearing is run. It doesn't hear the stop. And so instead of telling someone what we don't want them to do, we need to tell them what we want them to do. Now you might be sitting here going, Doc, this doesn't make sense. All right, let's play a little game. Don't think of an elephant. Do not think of an elephant. Quit thinking of an elephant. Now, I promise every one of you listening right now, you do not have a picture of a squirrel in your mind. You're thinking of an elephant. But I just told you not to. How dare you? You didn't listen to me. Oh, but you see, you did. The human brain heard elephant and it automatically thought elephant and gave you that image because it listened to me. And so our kids are the same way. When we tell them not to do something, they're hearing that and they just hear that last word. So instead of saying, hey, Tommy, let's not run, we can say, hey, Tommy, let's come to the table and color. 80% of the time, they'll actually stop what they're doing and come do that. So we need to redirect with something positive that we want them to do. And then guess what? Once they do it, we have to give them praise for doing that. And when we give them praise for doing the right things, they're going to do it more frequently. So remember this. This is one of the biggest things that we miss as parents, especially with our kids with special needs. This works with everybody, but especially with our kids with special needs. So now the thing to remember is success is different for everyone. And it's very much like building something from Legos. You've got to be able to build from the bottom up. And the closer and closer we get in accomplishing it, the closer and closer we get to the goal. So we got to be a builder of moves to accomplish the task and then ask, how can you make them want to do the task? Think of what they like, think who they are, what they enjoy, and offer things like for them for doing the hard work. All right. So now let's just take it a little shift and just talk about some general things with individuals with special needs. And these, I know I'm talking to the choir here since the majority of you are parents. But things to remember is we need to identify their strengths and their abilities and focus on that and find activities that they can achieve. Let's not focus on their disabilities. And you might say, well, Doc, what do you mean with that? Well, I'll just use a quick example. Let's say we have you've got a child who has fine motor difficulties, and you're working on maybe a craft or doing something, and they're struggling. They can't use a scissor. Well, you can simply take the scissors, cut out the craft that you're doing, and then give it back to them and let them color and draw and do everything on that craft. That craft is now theirs. You allowed them to focus on their ability and not focus on that disability of not being able to use the scissors. And so we need to help work through that. But as we work through everything, we need to make sure we have extra patience. Give praise frequently. When we give instructions for anything, it needs to be short and clear as we're helping them. We also have to have limits. Be firm, give limits. That's one big thing that we frequently miss out on as parents of a child with special needs. It's absolutely okay to set limits and okay to say no. Now, when you set limits, you have to set something that you absolutely can follow through on. Now, you're not going to sit here and say, okay, now if you don't do this, you're not going to get dinner. Well, we can't do that. Um, but it might be okay. Well, if you don't this, we're not going to get the dessert you want, or you're not. So do things that you can work towards. But our kids know if it's enforceable. So have the limits be enforceable. Limit choices to 1 to 2 things. I'd never try to do more than that. But engage with your kids, play with them, have fun yourself, and enjoy them as you're working through with them. And teach other kids around them, their peers, to be accepting of them and loving them and setting good example, and understand that your child is a child of God who's uniquely and wonderfully made. So let's take a minute now and talk about some crisis prevention techniques. Most important thing is be proactive. Act before the behavior actually is out of control. How do we do that? First, we have to be empathetic. And that means we have to pay attention. And when something happens, we need to get down on their level and talk to them in a calm, quiet voice. One of the big things that we miss a lot of times, every individual has our personal space, our personal bubble. That bubble is varies for person to person, but as a family, it's always a little closer. But even as a family, our bubble is wide when you approach someone face on. But you can come alongside someone on the side or a 45-degree angle, and our personal space is almost zero. I could come and get right next on the side of any of you, and you're not going to freak out. But as soon as I jump around and put my face in front of your face, you're going to pull back. One of the problems we do a lot of times is when our child is having a behavior, we immediately come straight on in front of them. And that raises their anxiety because we just entered their personal space when they're having a behavior. So instead of coming straight on, come at a 45-degree angle or a 90-degree angle, get down on their level, get down on your knee and talk calmly. Put a hand on their shoulder. Start massaging their shoulders. See if that massage can just help release some of the tension. They don't like to be touched, just pull your hand back. It's absolutely okay. But a lot of times that deep pressure will help them just relax. Sometimes, taking for a walk or maybe swinging, something like that can help them. Again, we can try some enforceable limits. We can use first then statements, if then statements. Hey, Susie, first, we're going to come sit at the table and then we're going to get to go play outside. Well, that helps Susie to understand that she has to be at the table first and do whatever we're wanting, and then she's going to get to go play or do whatever the activity is. And a lot of times that helps them in processing that and say, or if you sit at the table, then we're going to get a go play outside. So first, then, if then, can all be helping with that. Our kids especially ask a lot of challenging questions. It's absolutely okay to ignore challenging questions. Just redirect them whenever possible. Avoid overreacting as well. Remain calm, like I said, as we go through everything, and try to find something for reinforcement, something that you can be working towards as we're going through everything. All right. Now, probably the most important part of the night, I have 50 de-escalation techniques I'm just going to touch on as we go through everything. So hopefully some of these, I know beyond a shadow of doubt, many of these you're already doing, but hopefully some of these you can apply and help you as you move forward. But the first one is to stay calm. Stay calm. And we've already talked about some of this, but your own calm demeanor can actually have a soothing effect on your child. Maintain a composed and non-threatening posture. Don't have your arms crossed. Have your hands open, down the level, and just talking calmly will really make that difference. Along with that, have a soft and calm tone. Speak in a gentle and reassuring tone and to convey that you are there to help them and support them. The next thing is validate feelings. Let your child know that you understand their feelings and it's okay they feel the way they do. Phrase things like, I understand this is tough for you, or it's okay to feel frustrated. Those statements can be helpful for them because sometimes they feel like they're wrong for having these thoughts and feelings. But we all have these thoughts and feelings from time to time. So just letting them know that is okay. Most important one that we forget so frequently, guys, pray. Just what I do frequently in these situations, do a text message prayer to God. And for me, I frequently, before I get in and start working with the behavior, I do my text message prayer, God help. And God knows exactly what we need. He will give you the words, He'll give you the actions, and He will help you. But it also helps me in clearing my mind and maintaining so I can go in and be effective. Another important thing is we need to give space. Sometimes our kids just need some space to help them regain control. So let them know that you're available when they're ready to talk. Um, and again, you know your child the best. You know what's going to work and when. All of these are for different times. Many of these techniques we're going to talk about can be used together and back and forth. So these are all things to help you through. We've already hit some of this is offer choices. Provide your child with limited choices that help them feel a sense of control. For example, would you like to take a walk or sit down and talk for a bit? Even if our child is nonverbal, we can still sit down and talk with our child. We can do it through picture books. We can do it through their communication devices. We can do it just through hand signals. Um, are you upset? Yes or no? And they can point to the hand and just going through conversations like that. And that just helps them see that you're sitting there trying to communicate to them. But it's important that as the parent, as the caregiver, we're using non-threatening language. Avoid using confrontational language and making demands. Instead, use open-ended questions. For instance, can you tell me what's bothering you? To encourage communication. Now, I know some of our kids that's not going to work with. Um, but again, it just depends on who your child is and what they're like, but that will work for several of our kids. Again, we need to be able to empathize. Show empathy by saying things like, I can see this is really hard for you, or I can imagine how frustrating this must be. Again, that helps them see that you're seeing what's happening and you can help them through that and talking through that. Distraction is a great one. Sometimes just changing the subject to something positive or engaging can help shift their focus from the crisis that they're in. A lot of times we firmly know that the crisis they're in is over something that might be an inanimate object. It might be something that really isn't making any sense. So if we can shift and distract them from that, we might be able to help them regain calm once again. You could simply say something like, "Hey, have you seen that new movie that you know that people are talking about?" Or "Hey, how do you like playing with that your new car?" Or what, find something to talk about them. Other important thing is we need to focus on safety. If the situation involves risk of harm, prioritize safety above all else. Phrases like, "I want to make sure you're safe," can convey your genuine concern. And then we need to take actions to make sure that everyone's safe. Remove the other kids, remove other people from the house, from the area, remove items that can become weapons. Let's make sure everyone's safe. See where you are in relationship to the child. You never want to be place yourself where you're backed into a corner. I always want to encourage you that you've got yourself between the child and a door, that there's always kind of an escape route for you in need if you violence escalates. You have a way to escape and not get trapped in a corner or get trapped by furniture where you could really get harmed. So you need to make sure your safety there is there just as much. But then reassure, support, let them know that you're there to support them no matter what. You love them. You're there for them. And so just saying something like, "I'm here for you. I love you. We'll work through this together," can give them that reassurance that they desperately want. But this is a time that we have to avoid judgment. Avoid making judgments about their behavior or their feelings. Use phrases that show understanding and non judgment. So, like, "It's okay to have these feelings. I'm not mad at you." Many times when we're dealing with in the heat of the behavior, our kids automatically think that we're mad at them. And it's absolutely okay saying, "Look, I love you. We just want to work through it." But bottom line again, all behavior is a form of communication, and we have to figure out what they're trying to communicate to us. You can also use visual cues. Um, if your child, may need to have visual cues to calm down, you might have a calm down signal or a gesture that indicates taking a deep breath, and that can be very useful. So by and that can lead in our next one, just the deep breathing. And that works a lot. Encourage deep breathing when our kids are escalating with this. It helps them to regain control. And you could say something like, "Let's just take a few deep breaths together." And I've simply gone, "Okay, let's breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. All right, your turn. Do it with me." And try to you know, overdo it to let them see, even have fun with it is all okay to do. Next, if sensory issues are a concern, offer sensory tools and activities that can help them self-regulate. Um, Sometimes just having some fidget toys or weighted blankets or whatever it is, that can help them. So give them the things that they need to help them. However, don't give it to them if they're at the verge of turning that into a weapon. We don't want to be giving them, anything that can be turned right around into a weapon. Know where they're at and help them through that. Again, I hit this just a little bit earlier, but respect their personal space. So respect their personal boundaries. Avoid physical contact unless you know they're comfortable with it. If they don't like to be touched, if they don't like you being in their personal space, just give them that extra little room. But I always encourage, try to be on the side of them because that will be much more successful for them. And then use their own interests to help work through it. So if you know what their interests or their hobbies are, try to steer the conversation towards those topics. Engage them in something that they can enjoy and can help distract them, and that can help them regain the calm. You can also use reflective listening. Repeat back what they're saying to show that you're actively listening and trying to understand. Phrases like, "It sounds like you're feeling XYZ." That can be really helpful for our kids when they hear us repeating what they're trying to say to us. But we need to, at the same time, limit explanations. During a crisis, our kids might not be able to receive lengthy explanations. So we want to keep our communication clear and concise to be able to help through what we're working with. A lot of times that's when we get into long diatribes, and we can't do that. We need to just make it nice and simple to talk through. And then positive reinforcement is always a big thing that we always need. If they start to calm down, or they share their feelings with you, or they do anything that's starting to let you know what's going on, acknowledge that and reinforce their efforts. You could say, "I'm proud of you for opening up. You're doing a great job handling this. Thank you so much for sharing that. That meant a lot to me." That can all be helpful. You can also use humor, however, carefully. This is a real careful one we need to be careful with, but humor can be a powerful tool, but it has to be used cautiously and make sure it's appropriate for the situation. A lighthearted comment can diffuse tension, but it's vital that we never ever use sarcasm. Our kids frequently cannot understand sarcasm. And that's hard when you're someone like me, where my primary language is sarcasm. So I've got to make sure that I remove that completely from any of my communications when we're dealing with this, because that can just make it worse. And our kids with special needs frequently cannot understand that sarcasm. But we can have some humor, we can make a joke about what they like. Sometimes just being able to get that little laugh can help. A little tickle, I have found sometimes, if they're ticklish, maybe a little tickle might be something to get them out from their deepest hole that they're in. But we want to redirect any negative thoughts that we might have. Help them reframe those negative thoughts into more positive and constructive ones. For example, we can say, you know what, instead of thinking everything is bad, let's find one positive thing about today and just focus on that. And it might be that they got a piece of candy, or they had fun playing outside. Whatever it is, let's focus on that one positive thing. And that helps them get away from being in that negativity the whole time. But I want you to be able to express confidence. Let them know that you believe in their ability to overcome challenges. Phrases like, "I know you're strong enough to get through this," can still instill confidence for them and helping them through that. You can also offer a safe space. Create an environment where they feel comfortable expressing their emotions without fear or judgment or punishment. Um, Help them through that. Now, one thing, some of you may have sensory rooms in your house, or at the school, or at a church. That is not where you take someone having problematic behavior or deal with the behavior. Yes, a lot of times that behavior will stop when you take them into those areas they really like. However, you just rewarded that negative behavior with something they like. And as a result, they're going to learn that they can have negative behavior to get what they want. So instead, I don't take them into those spaces. I use those spaces to help them, prevent the behavior from happening, but not once the behavior is there. Um, I'll deal with the behavior wherever they're at, or take them somewhere else. Moving on with some other de-escalation techniques are use some visual supports. Visual aids like written or drawn cues can help communicate expectations and guide them through a crisis, especially for some of our friends who are nonverbal. And we need to respect timelines, allow them time that they need to process their emotions and their thoughts. Sometimes, they just need some time to get through this. So avoid rushing them to, quote unquote, snap out of their crisis. They may need a bit of time for it. But again, our job is to model calmness. Be a role model with that who can emotionally regulate. Demonstrate how to manage stress, and that can be valuable lesson that you teach them amazing coping skills with. Another thing I already shared that you can pray, do that text message prayer with God as your child's calming down. What I did a lot, I said, "Hey, Mark, can we pray together?" Now my son was completely nonverbal. I'd say, "Could we pray?" He would actually stop and then he'd fold his hands and we would pray together. I would pray for him. And just pray. And I wanted to teach my son and model prayer that we can go to God with any emotion, any feeling, and know that God can help us. And what I found when we did that frequently, we were able to get through our behaviors a whole lot quicker, because God just quickly helped calm my son's heart in that case. And a lot of the kids I've worked with now, that has worked amazingly well. Another thing you can do is collaborative problem solving. Involve them in finding solutions to the issue that's at hand. So this can help them feel empowered and engaged in the process. So let's say they're having a hard time, doing X. Well, help them figure out how to get X done. It doesn't mean you do it for them, you help them figure out how to get it done. And sometimes they just need that help in getting it there. Um, and that could be the whole thing that's causing the behavior. They're frustrated that they can't figure it out. Just by you helping them work through that and getting that answer can really help them in doing better with it. Our kids are huge with routines. So let's utilize routines when we're dealing with behavior. They respond very well to routines. So gently guide them back to familiar routines or activities to help them feel secure. You'll see that can help them. But limit distractions as we're going through everything. Minimize external stimuli that might contribute to their agitation. Find a quiet and comfortable space that you can have conversation with. Use affirmations. Positive affirmations can help shift their mindset and promote their self esteem. Phrases like "you're strong," "you can handle this" are reassuring. Again, say, "Hey, I love you." Those are powerful things. I'm here for you. They love hearing that. But you can also just offer a sensory break. That might be what they need sometimes. If sensory overload is a concern, suggest just a sensory break that aligns with their preferences, such as listening to calming music or engaging in some tactile activity can help them. And then sometimes you can share your personal experiences, share your own experiences of dealing with challenging situations and how you manage to cope can create a sense of connection and understanding. Now, that one I understand works better as our kids are older, especially as teenagers, where they can relate and understand that better. And again, we don't have to share everything with them, but just letting them know a lot of times that they're not alone. And that means a lot to the kids when they realize that, okay, if mom or dad have also had some problems with this, I'm not so odd with this because they're already feeling like the world's against them. And then acknowledge progress for them. If you notice signs of improvement, acknowledge it and say, "Hey, I can see you're trying to calm down. I appreciate that." That can be encouraging and help them to do even more. Sometimes you can use mirroring. Again, this depends on your child, but you can actually mirror their body language and the tone of voice can help them understand and connect. I don't recommend that for everybody, but there are certain kids where if they can see what it's looking like, they then understand. But again, that comes back to knowing your child and how that works. We've addressed a little bit with it, but let's make sure we're using our nonverbal communications. Sometimes a simple nod or reassuring smile, a little pat on the back, holding their hand, rubbing their hand, that can all be communicate support without overwhelming them with any words with it. Again, knowing though what your child's sensory intake is. If they don't like to be touched, well, then let's not do that. But see what helps them. Another thing that you can do is create a safe code. Develop a code word before you have another crisis later. Once you get out of this one, you can develop a code word or a signal that you can both use to communicate when they need assistance or they're feeling overwhelmed. And this can be very effective when our kids, especially if our kids are nonverbal and they're starting to feel this frustration building up on them and they can't fully understand it. You might have a code, phrase, a handshake, something that shows, hey, I'm starting to feel anxious about this or starting to have some problems. And then you can start interacting to prevent it from becoming a huge meltdown later. But we want to focus on solutions, redirect the conversation back towards problem solving rather than dwelling on the crisis itself. Ask questions like, what can we do to make things better? Uh, Validate challenges, acknowledge that the difficulties they face, even if they seem small. Validation to them, can help them feel heard and understood with it. And you'd be amazed how many times the behaviors just immediately start to diminish with them. But again, respect their need for privacy. If they prefer to be alone during a crisis, sometimes it's better just to give them their space and let them calm down. Let them know, though, that you're available whenever they're ready to talk or they need any assistance. And then when you are talking, we can also use verbal pacing. Sometimes speaking at a slower pace to them can help allow them to process our words more easily, especially if they're feeling overwhelmed. Obviously, tonight I've got a lot of material. I'm going pretty fast. I know I'm giving you guys a fire hose, but this is not how I would be talking to a child in a behavior. I'd be going slow and help and calm and help, making sure that they're understanding what I'm saying. At the same time, we want to set boundaries. We want to be supportive, but make it clear that certain behaviors are not acceptable at any time. And we need to balance that empathy with expectation for respectful behavior. Our kids absolutely can be respectful, and we need to teach them that. I've got and our kids with special needs always want to push the limit. They want to see how far they can get with everything. And I've got one of my favorite kids I've had. I'm just gonna call him Tommy. But Tommy and I, great relationship. I would always set limits, and he knew he could not cross the line. He would always try, but he learned quickly. And I remember, when we were at some of our events and especially our camps, he I would walk down the hallway, I'd find him outside the room. He would have two teenage girls working with him. Now Tommy loved these girls. He absolutely loved having the attention from the girls, and he would not do anything they were asking. But as soon as I turned the corner, Tommy would see me immediately, hands crossed like he was praying, head gets lowered. Sorry, Doc, I'll be better. I never had to say a word to him. Well, why did he do that with me? Because he knew I would have lines and I'd set those boundaries, and it gained a huge respect for each of us. And I said, okay, Tommy, let's make sure we listen and do what everyone else do what our leaders are telling us to do. Yes, Doc, I'll be better. And as soon as I walked away, he stopped. Why? Because those girls thought he was so cute that they couldn't say no to him. And Tommy knew that. So Tommy would push those buttons. So we need to set boundaries. And even though our kids are cute, and yes, our kids might have a lot of things going against them, but it's our job as a parent to help form them into the best person possible. We can also use some transitional phrases to help them transition from a crisis to resolution. And that can be challenging sometimes, but sometimes, again, just saying, let's take a deep breath and work through this together before we start working on those deep breaths can really be helpful with that. We can offer comfort objects to help them calm down and feel secure. Visual timers work very well if time management's a concern. They can help see it ticking down, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in just a minute. But we can also promote self expression, encourage them to express their feelings through art, through writing, offer creative outlets if they find difficulty to communicate verbally, and use positive memories. Remind them of positive experiences or moments where they've overcome in the past and instill a sense of resilience for them. Probably one of the most important ones we said is be patient. De-escalation can take time. Be patient and willing to invest the necessary time and support them through the crisis. And then finally, the last one is follow up. After the crisis has passed, after they've calmed down, check back in with them, 15, 20 minutes later, and see how they're feeling. And if there's anything you can do to help support them. A lot of times we just get them out of the crisis and move on to whatever else we have to do. That's where we miss a lot of times. We can prevent them from going back into crisis. I always, I the I think of things as when we first starting getting agitated, those are like little embers. And then as they're starting to get worked up a little bit more, it turns into like a little campfire. That campfire can be nice. I mean, we can make s'mores, that can be great. But then that campfire can turn into a huge forest fire if we leave it out of control and don't interact and take care of them. That's that big behavior. Well, after a forest fire is put out, there's still hot embers. After a big fire at a house, a fire department doesn't immediately leave. They stay there because there's hot embers, and those hot embers can take off and relight again. So can our kids. So they're more apt to reignite into that problematic behavior again. So just going back and checking in a lot of times can prevent that. So let's, as we're coming to a close here, talk about some tools that you can have to help as you work through everything. Um, uh, there at the bottom, I talked about star boards, how you can work towards rewards. You give them only for things they do. You never take it away for negative behaviors. Can help them a lot. Fidget toys work great to help them, focusing things. And sometimes they just need the fidget toy so they can listen and help work through things. In the bottom there, those are wiggle seats. One side's smooth, one side's rigid. If you're having a hard time with them sitting somewhere, a lot of times they'll sit on these or throw a couple of them down in different colors and say, hey, pick a color and let them do that. Make sure you have headphones. If our kids have problems with the noise canceling headphones that are appropriate sizes work. One other thing we forget though are sunglasses. Make sure you have sunglasses because sometimes the lights in the house, just the light outside, can trigger our kids. And so just having some of those around. Again, using if-then statements, first-then statements, having a visual schedule where you put what's going to happen that day for our kids to see. And I like to actually have pictures of what it's going to be with it. And then the last one again are timers. We talked about how important those are with it. But to finish up, de-escalation, final things I want us to remember. It's individualization. Each child with special needs is unique. And so you need to tailor your approach to their specific preferences, communication and style and challenges. So flexibility and sensitivity to the individual will lead to more effective de-escalation. Second is professional guidance. Consult professionals who are experienced in working with individuals with special needs. Their insights and expertise can help you develop personalized strategies and approaches based on your teenager's conditions and needs. And then also, you want to build trust. Establish trust through consistent communication, respect, and understanding. And this is vital. A foundation of trust will enable your child to feel safe and supported and make de-escalation strategies more effective in times of crisis. So with that, here's all my contact. You guys are more than happy to contact me, call me, and everything. But I'm going to stop sharing. Let us all come back and open it up and see if anyone has questions for me with anything. But go ahead. Hopefully this was helpful for you. But I know it was a fire hose. I just threw a lot at you. And then also, if you don't want to talk or get on camera here, you can also put it in the chat. I got the chat there, and we can go from that too.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so I have a 6-year-old and she's autistic. Well, she has a genetic disorder plus autism. And lately, she has issues with melting down more at home. She saves the more aggressive stuff for us, which is good, because she's done really well at school all day.
Uh-huh.
But when she melts down and goes completely from like 0 to 60 aggression,
Right.
and she's trying to go after her sister, she's trying to go after things to throw. We're having a really hard time just confining her to get her to her room. And we do have a gate we can shut,
Hmm.
but then she also, if she can't get out of the gate, she goes for windows. Um, we've put locks on closets. I mean, just to calm her down, we're not really sure what to do when she has escalated to that point.
Right. So yeah, and that's always challenging. So, definitely having, the locks on the windows and all those things are beneficial. The big things are trying to identify it when it's happening earlier. So
Okay.
you can try to prevent that escalation so quick. That's going to be one of the big things that I'd encourage you to try to see what it is. Is there something that tends to be triggering that more? So it's always going to be easier to try to prevent it from getting to that full, you know, crisis mode than dealing with it in that crisis mode. And so, trust me, I totally understand. It's hard. Your mom, you got other things going on, you got other kids, and you can't be everywhere at once with it. But just trying to see what's going on, helping teach your other kids, and I don't know how old they are, if they're able to help or not, but teaching them to identify, okay, this might be something that might be, she might be escalating. As you learn her. Um, is it happening at the same time all the time? Is it because she's hungry? Is it because she's tired? Maybe we need to have a snack earlier, thinking through things with that. Especially if, you're sharing that's normally happening at home. I'm assuming, frequently in the evenings, if it's not at school, those are usually long days, might be just, those could be all parts of it. But then the thing is going to be, sometimes you can just try to come in, even though having that meltdown. Sometimes just I've gone in, I've just given big bear hugs and giving them that pressure helps. Having a weighted blanket, giving them that weighted blanket to put that pressure on them sometimes just helps them with that. So those are some things that I might try um, to work with there to start.
Okay.
But I would really try to identify as you see her starting to escalate, see how you might be able to intervene, try some of these things we just talked about to prevent it from getting to the full blown melt.
Well, I will say one time that she always, it's a constant, is right before bed. Because we have one of the picture timers, and
Hmm.
we always show her that we've set the timer. You have many minutes before it's bedtime. And right when the timer goes off, she automatically, whatever she has, throws stuff. Because it's that transition to the
Yeah. And that bedtime is always a hard one. And then our kids with special needs never do sleep well. So,
mm-mm.
that's all a multi-step thing there. Um, And so it's just being patient, trying to work through that, finding rewards for having good nights,
Okay.
would be something. I'd say, maybe you could do. I'm just gonna make up something, okay? Maybe she likes M&Ms and she's able to have M&Ms. Maybe say, hey, look, if we do well tonight, tomorrow we're gonna give you two M&Ms. You do a little bit longer and do better tomorrow night, we'll give you three M&Ms. And so just having, it could be anything. It might just be time on, listen to a song on an iPad or something. Find something that she likes. Sometimes that can be something where we'll reward the good behavior and we're not going to reward the negative behavior that she's having.
Okay.
And that you might see that that might break it. That actually worked with our son.
Okay. We'll try that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. Well, I'm just kind of curious because like sometimes when I ask my son to do certain things or just I get like ignored, like straight up ignored. And I'm just like, dude, I know you hear me. Like you're
Right.
straight up ignoring me. And then when it gets to the point of where I'm like, you know what? You know what? I'm trying to get your attention. I'm gonna take this away. And then it's meltdown. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna listen now. I'm calm now. Listen now. Just so he can get what he wants at that moment. But the thing
Uh-huh.
is, it's like you heard me the first time, and that, we want to establish boundaries because I'm going to give you opportunities, but when I know you're ignoring me, then I mean I feel like I I can't give in too quickly because he'll know, okay, I can ignore her for a certain amount of time,
Absolutely.
and when it gets real, then I'm gonna get it together. Mommy, I'm sorry, I love you. Give me kisses. I'm like, I mean, it's cute because of course I want to give him kisses, but I'm being played like a fiddle.
Right. That
Sometimes.
it's again, back to what we talked about, having those boundaries and following through, and they know exactly what you do. You set those boundaries, and it's gonna be hard. Our kids know how to push them, and they're gonna try to go past them every single time. So it's just trying to be we have to be consistent and let them know they can't pass it. There's consequences for going past it. I always told my kids, look, you're the only one who can decide what you're going to do. But I get to decide what happens. And there's good consequences and there's bad consequences. And if you do what I'm asking, there's good consequences. If you do what I'm not asking, there's bad consequences. And they will learn that over time, and taking away the iPad or whatever it was you were sharing, that's the bad consequence. These are natural consequences that they have to learn these, and that's absolutely okay. It may mean that you have a few days, a few weeks of really struggling with that, but then they're finally going to learn and start doing better with it. It's the consistency that we need. And what happens frequently is they're going to start, and then we see some improvement, and then they just really explode and get really mad, and we give in. My friends, that's the time that we should not have given in, because that was like their last straw to try. And a lot of times we see behavior get at its worst before they finally sit there and, for lack of a better term, succumb and follow your whirling. Tommy, who I shared with you, oh my gosh, that boy pushed the buttons. And and the last one where he finally stepped down and he realized he wasn't going to get away with me, he had a massive, massive meltdown. And then after that meltdown, I hadn't had a meltdown with him in 14 years. Others have, but I haven't. And so, but that's where a lot of parents take that mistake as saying, okay, this isn't working because the behavior is getting worse. It's getting worse because our kids are saying, I don't like this and I'm trying to win.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
even is with our neurotypical kids. You'll see that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I want to respect everybody's time with this. If you got more questions or anything, please feel free to contact me. um, with everything. Would love to answer any more questions. A couple things to let you know about. One, again, if you're not already a part of it, every Thursday night from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time, we have a caregiver support group. That where you meet with other parents. You can definitely talk through questions like this with other parents who are getting it. Right now, they're going through a little book study, and we've got parents from all over the country on that. So it's completely free. You can sign up on our website with that. And so I encourage you to do that. Share that with your families as well. Again, this Caregiver 411 is the fourth Tuesday of every month. Our next one next month, we haven't finalized everything yet, but I'm hopeful that Tim is going to be doing it. Tim is with us here tonight. Tim Taylor, good friend of mine, and I believe we're going to have a talk on budgeting and managing finances. And Tim is a master with that. I think that's something we can all learn how to do better with our lives when we're able to budget well and manage our finances in a healthy way. So Tim's going to be talking about that. I don't have the date in front of me. I apologize. It's the fourth Tuesday.
22nd.
22nd. Thank you, Tim. And so I'll have the official title here from Tim a little later, but Tim will be here with us for that. The registration's open for that, but love to have you come back in. But otherwise, guys, I just want to pray real quick for all of you before we end the night. All right, can I pray? All right. Gracious Heavenly Father, God, I just thank you for every single parent who is on this talk tonight, every single parent who watches this on YouTube in the future. God, I just pray that you help them be the best parents that you've created them to be. God, they are blessed to have these amazing kids. And Lord, I pray that you will give them the wisdom, you'll give them the energy, the discernment on knowing what to do and when to do it. God, our being a parent of a child with special needs is incredibly challenging. God, I just pray and first I thank you for these kids and what a true joy they really are. But God, I pray for the wisdom in knowing how to parent and know that you're not alone. God, I pray that everyone will know that SOAR is here to help and that there's other parents who get it and that no one's on an island. We are all together. And God, that you purposely give us more than we can handle. Because God, you don't want us to handle it. You want us to lay it at your feet so that you can take care of everything. God, help us focus on what we have control over, which God frequently is very, very little. And I pray that you take the rest. God, just bless our kids, bless our family, and just bless our time together now. We pray this all in your great holy name. Amen. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate all of you. Hopefully tonight was helpful. And I look forward to seeing you all next month with Tim. You guys have a blessed night. See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you.